Yo, what are you doing right now? We are going to get real about men's issues, who Jesus is, and who we are as men in Christ. We're going to hear Trey, Jeremy, Michael, and Brad break it down. These guys call themselves the Cussin Christians. All right, guys, what is going on? So we think the dryer's gone.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Dude, your dryer's out.
Fun stuff.
My freezer, on my refrigerator freezer, I opened it up, and there were icicles coming down the front. The ice maker leaks. So I'm
the ice maker leaks, that's fixable maybe.
Well, it's already been fixed once. I had a brand new ice maker put in 6 months ago. So
Yep.
And I'm just kind of over the door dispensers of ice and water because it's just a mess and it starts looking crappy. And so I think I'm going to go get a new one tomorrow.
Whole new fridge?
Whole new fridge.
Sweet.
Yeah. Donna.
How old is your one now?
10.
Okay.
Maybe.
Because technology's changed now. You can connect it to your phone, and for whatever reason, you would ever want to do that.
That's all I want to do is connect more things to my phone, bro.
check on the status of your ice maker through your phone. Get a notification.
Unlock my front door, open my garage door, all
Watching
that. I don't have any of that.
Kitchen.
I don't have keys.
You don't have keys to your house?
No.
You got keys to your house?
I have keys.
All right.
That's old
I
school.
like keys.
There's 2 keys. Well, 3. That one goes to my to a lockbox that I have that has a gun in it. This one is to my mailbox, and this one's to my truck.
Okay. Well,
Biometrics for the gun lock, gun safe.
See, I need to get that I need a biometric thing on the freezer so the kids, they're up at night down there cooking pizza and stuff. They just need a thumbprint. Like, you can't get in there. You're locked out.
there you go.
That'd be sweet.
We'll take
They
that.
probably have it. It's probably available.
Yeah.
Parental lock.
What happened to the days? I mean, you grew up in small town America,
Yeah.
right?
Very.
Did you even lock your door when you were growing up? I remember. I remember us. It wasn't a big thing. Make sure and lock the door. It just wasn't a thing. I don't even know my neighbors now. I got an older couple across the street that I just befriended because he fell one day and she asked me to come help him off the floor. And that's how I met him. And they're the only people I talk to. But everybody else in my neighborhood, I have no clue who they are.
Yeah.
I know a handful of them, but my immediate neighbors, I only know the name of one. And I know that's terrible, but I just...
Gone are those days, man.
For about 10 years, we lived, we have a condo, Cocoa Beach, and we were living there. And so we know the neighbors right and left of us, but there's people that are always renting. So there's always strangers around you don't know. There was one night we were sitting and we were eating dinner, and we can look right out to the boardwalk that goes out to the beach. We're bottom floor. And these 2 dudes were walking up the boardwalk, and my wife says, "Oh, I saw these guys earlier today." I'm like, "Oh, okay." One dude turns a corner, and he only has one arm, like from the shoulder, and he's just like no arm. I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, what his story is." They walked around, didn't think anything about it, and about several hours later, we're watching TV around 8:00 at night, and I hear the toilet upstairs flush. It's like a split level type thing, and you have to go upstairs to get to the front door. I hear the toilet flush, and I'm like, "Well, my son's gone. Like, is there any chance the toilet could have flushed itself?" Like, I don't know. You think weird things like that.
You got a critter in your house that's
So I knew none of my kids were up there. So I get up there and I walk up there, and I turn the corner, and the bathroom door's open, and there's the one-armed guy standing in my bathroom.
No way.
He's looking in the mirror. He's doing something. I'm like, "Hey, man," and he looks at me and he's like shocked. He's like, "Oh," he kind of jumps back because he was a little dude, but he only has one arm. I'm like, "Hey, man," I said, "I think you're in the wrong place." He goes, "What?" He goes, "I thought this was 504. I'm like, "You're in the wrong place, dude." And I'm like, "Let's go." Open the door, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
Oh, he was.
But we didn't hear him come in because our dog hears everything and barks if anybody comes in there. So after that, I was much more vigilant about monitoring the door, keeping it. We lock it at night anyway, but we just didn't lock it in the evening when our kids are coming and going. But the one-armed guy in the bathroom story is always
that'll get your attention, man.
Tell.
My wife comes into my office last week, and we had football stuff going on. She was like, "Hey, the oven, we can hook it up to our phones, right?" I was like, "Yeah," and it's hooked up to mine, but we've never used it, right? Because I was like, we should probably try that while we're home before we decide to try that when we're at the football field. Let's make sure we know how to work that thing.
Yeah.
You said the oven? Mm-hmm. Cool. So you can remotely start it and
if you want to preheat the oven, you can put it on the smart mode or whatever, and then you just preheat it on the way home.
That's cool, but who needs that? I mean,
Not me. Not me. As it is, you got your appliances. You got your TV watching you when you don't think it is.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of it.
I've just given up on the fact. Like, you're all just fooling yourselves. You think they don't know already. I went through the entire Newark airport the other day on facial recognition. Didn't even get an ID out.
Yep. That's the last time I flew a few weeks ago. I never pulled out my driver's license.
Which is nice coming through customs. You know, you don't have to deal with things, just your face, which is sweet.
Hey, we're missing Brother Michael today. Michael left 4 days ago to head up to Kentucky. He is serving. I mean, it is his job, but with those storms that went through in Kentucky last week, there's a lot of devastation.
God be with him, huh?
Yeah, well, you have baseball-sized hail. He had pictures of front yards that looked like it was snow stacked up.
Wow.
And the damage to windows and cars and homes and roofs was awful. And Michael, God bless you, you and your team are going to be up there for a few weeks, it sounds like, to sort through all the insurance claims to help those people out. So I know he's going to look for an opportunity to share Jesus with everybody he can.
Yeah.
And in spite of the fact that he's so far away from his wife, and we want him back here, but he's doing a great work there.
I just hope he's careful which Pentecostal church he goes to.
Do you see Michael dancing in the aisle, bro?
No, I'm talking about the snake ones.
Oh, the snake ones.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
They are there.
Yeah. Well,
Crazy.
A little bit south of Owensboro, but
yeah.
they are out there.
Well,
I grew up not far from one.
but we had we had Bill on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and
Mr. Toady.
Mr. Toady, which his story is great. His salvation story, his mission in life now is to help local veterans out. And another person that I got introduced to the past year and a half through our friend Tim Thomas. As we were,
Seems like it's been longer than that.
I know, dude, it's crazy, right? But as if you don't know the story of our Impact Warriors initiative, we work with a lot of men that might be going through depression and suicidal thoughts, and threats and things like that. And there was a couple of years ago, a couple of young veterans came into our life where we counseled with them, with others, and it just stirred me so much. And as I started talking to Tim, getting the numbers, suicides for veterans is 22 a day, and we talked about that with Bill. The challenges of coming back and adjusting back into civilian life, from just reconnecting with your family to paperwork, bureaucracy you got to do to get your benefits, to just confusion, not having anybody to relate to, because when you're in the military and you're gone away for 18 months or however long your deployment is, you're speaking a certain language. When you come back, they struggle sometimes just having conversations with their own family members. And Tim brought Garen Cohn into my life. And we have been kind of attached at the hip on some of these veterans things. And Garen, you work with an amazing, you're the founder and well, I'll say
like that.
Your wife's the head honcho, but you're the hired help.
I'm just a show pony.
But
I just show up.
But Garen's with the AVET project right here, Brevard County, and we're going to be teaming up with the AVET project as part of our military initiative and awareness campaign for the Matthew West event we're going to have here in 2 months. So
it's going to be awesome.
Man, I appreciate you coming out and just sitting in with us. This is cool. I've been on your podcast about a year ago.
American Warrior Radio.
You
actually did a good job.
I did?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Hey.
AVET, American Veterans, here's the key, empowerment, other key, team. We're a team.
Right.
American Veterans Empowerment Team. And because of him, I've been able to reach even more people. And you're talking about Impact Warriors. Tell the viewers and the listeners, you started to say how you got this going. But why? Because you're not a vet yourself.
No, I'm not a vet. None of us are vets. But it struck me with this veteran named Evan, who was a Navy corpsman.
Big dude, like I'm surrounded by here.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah,
he's like a tree.
Yeah, when I met him, he's 2 inches taller than me, and just.
So he didn't work on the sub.
No, he was a medic with the Marines, going out in the field and putting bodies back together.
Wow.
Right, and he shared some of the horrific things that he experienced, and when he came back to Brevard County, he didn't know how to relate. He tried to fill himself. You know, he couldn't reconnect with his wife, his child. He started trying to fill himself with satisfaction by going to strip joints and drinking a lot, doing some drugs, and he just spiraled out of control to where I got the call from Hudson and Gary Miracle. Hey, we need to talk to this guy and put our arms around him. He had his 9mm in his mouth this morning, and we were able to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it struck me with this guy and talking with him, Garen, and you can, man, I want you to give your experience in working with veterans in a lot bigger volume way than me. It touched my heart so much that these, however many hundreds of thousands of people that go through the military, millions, they're disconnected with their own country somehow, and a lot of times when they come back home. And how we, Jacob, one of our brothers that joined our military group for a while, the Warriors, he said, I came back and my parents don't even want to talk to me about what I did, and I need to flush this out, but it's all superficial. I can't really talk to them that well. They just want to push it. They just know that I went to Iraq somewhere, but they don't want to know any more than that. And it's just a disconnect. And with Evan, it got to the point where his wife left him, took the baby, and they moved to North Carolina or South Carolina, North Carolina, and he just spiraled out of control. I don't even want to be here anymore, and was about to take his life before Hudson and them intervened. And it just breaks my heart that I'm free to sit here and say whatever I want on this microphone for the world to hear because of their efforts, yet they don't get the credit when they come back. And what do you see with guys coming back, man? From
definitely a disconnect. You've become a regimented machine. You're a GI, government issue. You do what you're told when you're told to do it, and you do it the best you can. When you come back, and whether that's 6 months, a year, multiple deployments. I know a colonel has done 14 combat deployments.
Wow.
Now, tell me that's not going to twist your brain.
Sure.
right.
But in the case of people like Evan, it's about reintegration. And that's one of our core programs, PR&R, Project Recuperation and Reintegration. They don't have the touchstones that they did. They've lost that sense of family, that brotherhood, sisterhood of being in the military. And when they come back, like you just laid it out there, even their own family members may not even want to engage, let alone know how.
And that's probably as much of the issue as anything. It's like, as a parent, you start to hear the stories, and you're hearing your son, oh, I was in Iraq. Well, now you have to picture what they pictured in your mind. And
start by listening.
Yeah.
Just open your ears and let them talk if they want to talk. A lot of them don't want to talk.
Right.
A lot of them become disconnected with God, whether they've had a belief in Jesus Christ prior to, or maybe they've lost that based on things they've experienced and seen or done themselves. So there's a whole lot of different challenges. And Impact Warriors is like, there's plenty of Bible studies. Impact Warriors is not a Bible study in the classical sense. It's an opportunity. You bring it every third Tuesday of every month. You have the topic set up, but we don't always follow those.
No.
It's more of a...
It's like anything we do with our regular impact group. We yield to the brother that needs yielding to, right?
Exactly, and they need more of that.
Right. Well, and I think it was so important with Evan, and Evan's got a great ending to his story, by the way, because he's reconciled with his wife. They actually have another
awesome.
child. He went to North Carolina, and he's living with them. He came to our church and some of our men's groups and functions and breakfasts and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him for over a year now.
Dude, yeah. He's just a delightful young man. And I can't imagine what he saw. He shared with me some things. But this is where I struggled with Evan, okay? And Garen, I've shared this with Garen and Tim and others. I'm great at coming alongside and putting my arm around you, talking about Jesus with you, but I don't talk military.
Sure.
And that's where, when I was trying to talk with Evan, I could feel it, and I sensed it. I'm not connecting with him in as deep a way as I want. So that's when I called Tim Thomas, and I said, man, I'm not sure what this is going to look like, but it might be the most important thing we've ever done. I want to start it small. but I need military guys. And I'll organize it, maybe lead a discussion or two, but I need to turn it over to where a military guy that's struggling can look at another military guy and bring it. And so I think I have every branch of the military represented, and except for the Coast Guard. So if you're a Coast Guard guy and you want to join us, please give me a call.
We've got to
Space
have
Force,
one.
throw them in there.
What's that?
Space Force
And
too.
Space Force, yeah. I still haven't made that. That's an additional thing. Space Force, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines. But so I got these.
What's their theme song sound like?
I haven't heard it.
Sorry, I don't know.
Or the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it would be Star Wars because they were based off of the Nazis.
Really?
The stormtroopers and all that.
Stormtroopers
Oh, I had no
and
clue.
all that.
How about Star Trek?
That might
That's
be
would be a good theme.
Could be. But
Well, they've got the emblem, right?
Yeah.
Their logo
There you
pretty
go.
much resembles Star
does.
Trek.
That is true.
But we got it right over here, Patrick. Space Force Base.
It is.
Wasn't that logo designed years ago? I thought that logo's was been around for 40
Oh.
years or something. Like it goes way back. It wasn't something they just came up with.
Possibly. I'm not.
Several years ago.
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar, but
He's-
it is a cool logo. I do like it. It's just you always think of Star Trek when you see it, which is fine because they're doing a very important mission. But guys, talking about this mission, Impact Warriors, we got to grow this. Everybody out there that's watching this and listening to this, you got to get this word out. If you are a veteran or even active duty, we got active duty guys.
Oh, yeah.
we got
Yeah,
helo
absolutely.
pilots. Yeah, all from 920th Rescue Wing. You got to get plugged in.
Right.
And if you know somebody that's struggling and they don't have some place to go where it's safe and they can talk to other people that will relate to them, perfect opportunity. Because I look at it more, and you can correct me if this doesn't work nomenclature-wise, more of a support group, a Christian-based support group.
yeah. Well, and absolutely. It, like you said, when I started Impact in 16, I went to my wife. I said, I want to get some guys together. And she said, oh, you want to do a Bible study? And I went, no, Bible's going to be a big part of it. But I've got 3 Bible studies I'm going to now. But I wanted a place where men could come, get real, share their fears, share their, what hurts them, share their frustrations, share their glorious things. And it kind of went over into the military piece because Evan had no joy. Evan had no hope. And then all of a sudden we started planting the seeds of Jesus in his brain, and his heart started taking off. And, I wanted Garen to be on because what he deals with day in, day out with veterans, their struggles and getting things, I just wanted to pick his brain about 75,000 veterans in our county alone. Am I right? Is that number about right?
It could be. That's a good number.
Yeah. And
That's just veterans. You got the active duty component. National Guard, like you said, Coast Guard, lots.
yeah. So, and our county is 800,000 people or so.
Sure.
So you look at
1 in 10 people that you run into.
yeah, they're military for sure. And tell us about just some of the challenges that you have to address with these guys and girls or ladies and gentlemen.
It runs the gamut. It really does. Predominantly, aside from every other issue they might be facing, they want to get back here. They've heard of this whole VA claim or maybe VA health insurance. Okay, because again, coming from the military, everything's provided. You know where you're going to eat. You know where you're going to sleep. Everything's done. Then you're thrown out into the civilian world again, and they hear these things. I got to get plugged into the VA. Well, the VA is a monstrous machine.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you ever wanted to know about the VA is right there at va.gov. It's an ocean of information. Everything you wanted to know.
Very
it's all
hard
there.
Very, very hard to navigate.
That's just it.
Yeah.
So somebody, whether they're even somewhat versed in military issues, because you've got Title 38, which governs the VA. You got Title 10, which governs active duty. They may know Title 10. I mean, let's hope they haven't come across the UCMJ. That's where if you get in trouble, that section of the code addresses that. So they may have some familiarity. But the Transition Assistance Program that was pioneered back in the early 90s, I had a very tiny part in that in the San Diego area. The emphasis was to educate them about what's going to take place once they leave service. And one of those primarily is getting plugged into your benefits, whether it's health care or whether it's VA benefits. If something happened to you while you're on active duty, In other words, you came in, you were presumed to be of sound mind and body. If you had a pre-existing condition, you may or may not have gotten in. But so you're healthy when you get in. They do their intake physical. So then you serve, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 20. And things happen over that period of time, especially when you're in the military. I shouldn't say especially, because you could be working for IBM. If you fell off a ladder and you weren't drunk, you were on the job, you're going to get workers' comp. So VA compensation, disability compensation, is basically an implied workers' comp agreement with the government standing by their warriors saying, this happened because you were serving your country and it's going to be with you. It can't be acute and transitory. It's got to be something that is really going to be a chronic problem. We're going to help you out, whether it's compensation or immediate enrollment in healthcare. They come out not really knowing any of this because the TAP program, Transition Assistance Program, has started off strong, and it's just kind of like so many things, good intentions, but it's not where it needs to be.
Gotcha.
And here we are, we're in 2025. These kids have more opportunity, more educational opportunity than ever before. All right, I'm the forgotten generation. I was in from 80 to 87. From 1975 to 1990, there was nothing. There's the door. I got medically discharged after urgent fury in Grenada. There's the door. You're out of here. So the Vietnam era folks, they got their GI Bill. There were other benefits that were payable. Free education. That's awesome. Would have loved that. I had VEAP, Veterans Educational Assistance Program, which is for every $2 you put in, the government put in $1. It's like a little savings account. And then it was taxed also at the end of it all. But so for that period of time, there was nothing. Since PGW1, the benefits have grown exponentially. So they don't know what they, didn't have. So they know what they've got, but it's still, there's that connection you're talking about. Leaving military service and coming back out into the civilian sector presents all kinds of challenges, whether it's familial, nobody's relating to you, A lot of guys and gals will go to the VFWs or the American Legion post just to try and strike that up. Well, guess what? That's not really happening either, because you've got another even my generation and older, that are not accepting. They're not welcoming them in as much as they could, for sure. So they're left dangling again.
Why is that?
Is it like it's like the old timer dudes are sitting around and they're going, "Who's this young
smoking
punk
cigarettes,
coming
drinking
in?"
their beer?
Yeah, they're not going to fit in here. I mean, is that kind of the mentality?
Old boy.
The old boy thing? Wow.
Yeah.
It was rougher in my day type thing. So don't tell me.
You don't know how bad you had it.
Yeah.
Which believe me, the kids today do have a leg up, far in excess of what previous generations have. But still, we got to help them out when we can. And you're talking about the challenges. It's about going from the military back into the civilian sector. Whether they have a job lined up already, that's awesome, because then they kind of fit right in. But and I'm sure Bill could talk about this issue, it's not always as rosy as you think it might be, because you have this military mindset. Wait a minute, where is my checklist?
Right.
The checklist.
Yeah.
Well, you're very focused in your duties, what you're doing. Is that what they call the 3-foot world, where it's like you're every day, you know what you have to do, but you get out and it's like you may not die if you don't do anything for a few days, but also you're just overwhelmed with all, what should I do?
I think so. I think that's been our experience. And again, I mentioned the cornerstone program of ABET Project, PRNR Project, Recuperation and Reintegration. It's a retreat, whether it's at sea. I think 2 Veterans Days, we had 130 vets and their families go to the Bahamas with us. We have them right there, and we just give them all kinds of information, opportunities to get massage, psychological therapy, benefits info. It's just a really awesome program, because when somebody's coming out of the military and they haven't assimilated yet, and then they go on a PRNR retreat, they're going, yeah. So it's really effective. Yeah. Land-based, same thing. Last Veterans Day, we had about 30 vets and their families. Try and always include the families, because, as you guys I'm sure know, just like in the real world, it's not the individual. It's all the people that are around us that are affected by our moods and temperaments and, our pluses and minuses. We're all interplayed. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to get them plugged in to good information as quickly as we can, But then again, and I'm kind of rambling here, but I have a point. There was a lieutenant colonel gal. Oh, Garen, I can't go. I don't want to take somebody else's seat. No, there's people that need it more than I do. I said, you're being so selfish. What do you mean? I'm being selfless. I said, no. What you have to share when you get in a room with some of your brothers and sisters in arms, you may affect somebody profoundly just by telling your story.
Sure. Yeah.
So got to keep an open mind. And that's what I was mentioning to, it was one of you guys, maybe it was you, Jerry, that you just listen. You know, the guys and gals get back, open up your ears and listen. You may not like what they're saying.
Sure.
But it's worth listening to.
Yeah.
It helps them. It's therapeutic.
With an officer like that, because, in the military, and this is just what I assume because I am not military, but the people below him put him on a pedestal, him or her on a pedestal. They look at him.
As they should.
And it's kind of like what we do with pastors. But
exactly,
how many times do pastors just strip it down and get real about what their fears are and who they are and things like that? So,
and they can't, right?
And they
right.
or they don't feel like they
can,
can
right.
and it's got to be in the proper format and proper setting and all that stuff. And I would love for more of them to release that, because if I'm hearing their struggle. That's why I like Tullian.
Get him on the phone.
Let's get him on the phone. But that's why I like. I've been listening to the Misfit Preachers with Tullian and those guys, and I'm like, it gives credibility to everything he's trying to do when I hear the struggles that they went through, the failures they had, right? And a lot of times you'll put an officer on that pedestal, like he doesn't have fears and he doesn't have failures. She doesn't have this or that, but if they share it, oh my gosh. Imagine the walls and the impact it has on the people.
Relatability.
Relatability.
Sure. Garen, when and where did you serve?
I was in the Air Force. I was a crew chief on 141s, and then I transferred to C5s. And in 1983, if you're all familiar with our little Grenada escapade there, got injured, got out in 1987, went back to school, spent a little bit of time in corporate America, Hormel Foods, Revlon Cosmetics, and then got into veterans advocacy, which is really, you want to talk about my service. The military was during peacetime, and fortunately during that time period, the Reagan era, we were building up, because when I went in, it was decimated. You had Vietnam. We were driving around metros. These are the vans that go out onto the ramp and take you out to your airplane. These things were junk. I mean, they wouldn't have been roadworthy in the real world. And we're trying to operate on something as simple as a metro that's so outdated and so out of whack, and we're dealing with cannibalizing airplanes. What that means is, let's say a C-5, which at the time was the largest bird in the air. They have 35 based at Travis Air Force Base. That's where I was based out of. And I've done some service in other places. If one of them, well, they have it planned, routine depot maintenance. They bring it in to a big hangar and they start cannibalizing. They start thieving parts off of it to keep the rest of the fleet flying because they don't have the parts. Nobody had the foresight to say, wow, we're going to need a lot of these parts and stuff. So during the Reagan era, a lot of that was still going on. And it made it rough because nobody wanted to go back into the depot. Your bird is dead for at least 3 months, probably up to 6 months. And while it's keeping the rest of the fleet flying, it's just kind of a miserable, nobody was really happy. Okay, we had a wonderful deputy commander of maintenance who used to bring the beer truck out to the hangar every once in a while, and everybody loved that. You know, it's like, yes, Colonel, bring it out. We'll have some fun. And that was the kind of relief that you had. I had a TDY to Elmendorf, Alaska, because one of the C-5s, which is a monster plane, the nose gear collapsed and it just made a mess on the way there. And that was my first TDY, my first opportunity to actually go out and see something else. And it was amazing, you know, because we had moose coming across the runway. They'd be out there running them away. It's a different kind of life based on the tempo they have now. Okay, because during that period of time when Beirut and, of course, Grenada, when those things were taking place, they were very isolated. Everybody had a part to play. I would say every branch of service did. And unfortunately, I got injured. But when you talk about the tempo that the kids, I'm 62, so I can call them that. the kids are dealing with today, that's bad. It's far worse than being not complacent, but just wondering, what am I going to do now? Because everything is kind of stagnant from 75 to 90, kind of the forgotten military. Well, now we're just ringing them out. And in this town, we have 2 big National Guard units. And their deployment tempo has been like back to back to back for many, many years. They were ringing them out. Why? Because they had to augment the active force. Well, do you think now, if active duty isn't getting the support they need when they come back from their deployments, how much less so are these National Guardsmen? You know, they're weekend warriors. You know, they'll take care of themselves. So it just compounds the problem. But to answer your question, I was in, and then like I said, I enjoyed my time. I learned a lot. You grow up. You know, it's an opportunity. I ask on American Warrior Radio, any veteran that I have on, because it's not just vets we have on. We want people that are interesting and have a story to tell as it relates to, you know, our military. And for the veterans, would you advise? Oh, I have a quick story to share. So one of the guys I just asked this last, probably Sean Parnell, who is now the chief spokesman for the Pentagon. He was on American Warrior Radio. I actually interviewed him 6-7 years ago on AWR while he was working for Concerned Veterans of America over in Orlando. And I represented before the VA, and we won that case. But now he's the spokesperson for the Pentagon, which I'm really proud about that.
Yeah.
But I remember asking him, because he's a gung-ho, retired captain, and he's got all kinds of credits to it, and 2 Purple Hearts, all this stuff. Would you? He's got kids. Would you recommend military service to your kids? It's like, putting them on the spot. I get varied answers. The response can be, yeah. You know, it's always a little bit tepid. I haven't heard anybody go, yeah, I would, you know? So that tells you a little something.
What was your motivation to get involved, to serve?
Oh, really, it's kind of been a family tradition. I have one brother that didn't serve, but everybody else pretty much has, from World War II to Korea through Vietnam, and then my brothers. But I went to Southern Illinois University for 1 semester out of high school, and, well, you guys are all huge. It's like I'm sitting in amongst a football team here. I remember I thought I was a football player. I go into a walk-on camp at the big auditorium there. This is walking. These are guys that are not going to make the team, right? I walk in there, and I'm looking up. Oh no, this is not funny.
All of a sudden, things got bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah,
Reality.
It's like, okay,
right?
A little bit.
so yeah. So from there and my studies, I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, I'll go in the Air Force, keep my butt safe, but still do something productive, learn a skill. Of course, I wanted to be a flight engineer, and I wanted to be on the flight deck, but I didn't have my degree at that time. So going into crew chief, which is basically, that's your bird. You know, you've got your name on the door, and anything that happens to it, you're responsible, which for a kid, a 19, 20-year-old kid, that's a lot of responsibility. They're still doing it today.
Wow.
Okay, make no mistake. You look on a fighter jet even, it'll have his crew chief there. Huge responsibility. They're watched closely, but you learn a lot and you grow up. And that's why I asked that question. Would you recommend or suggest somebody go in the military today?
Well, my dad didn't, because I wanted to. I'm like 9/11 era, right? And I came home and I was all gung ho, ready to go, and let's go do this. And
he didn't want that for you.
He was,
because he knew where you'd be going.
Yeah, he was ex-Marine, during that era, just post-Vietnam, so he remembered all that. And he was and fortunately, I got the chance to play football in college. And he was like, "Hey, listen, you're going to get a scholarship." He goes, "I'll support you, but the only way I'll support you is if you go to college first." And he goes, because then you can go to OCS, you can go do all these other things.
Good plan, smart guy.
He was like, but I do not want you over there doing what I know you'll end up being done. He goes, you're a big guy. They're going to hand you a machine gun, and that's what your job's going to be. He goes,
go kill the enemy.
Yeah, because I thought I was going to be a Navy SEAL sniper. That's what I wanted to do. He was like, that's not how it's going to work out.
That's the movies. I want to be.
He told me no.
I want to be a.
Well, that's because
SEAL in the movies.
You remember
It's Hollywood.
the Charlie Sheen movie, Navy SEALs? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be the guy guy. I think he called himself God, and he sat up like he's like, and he like had the thermal scope, and I was like, that's what it'll be like. I'll be hanging out on top of buildings, just taking people out. But I mean, it's 15. Like that's what you're, that's what you visualize. That's not what war is, though. Like,
It helped the recruiters, they love that.
Big time,
True.
big time.
oh yeah, because he jumps off the Jeep. I was like, that's the guy I want to be. Jumping off the Jeep on the bridge, swimming over.
Let me ask you. You give me some of your testimony and some of the hardships you've gone through in life. The faith walk. How tough is it?
Well, there are chaplains. If you want a chaplain, you can find one. They're deployed. They're forward deployed.
Right.
They're not carrying weapons, and that's part of the whole program. But they're there for the guys and gals that want to.
How does that person that's active, that's out there doing their job, stay strong in faith in a military background when you're out there?
Well, I can give you one story. Early on in AVET Project, we hosted a PRNR retreat with our director of counseling. Beautiful piece of property on the Rogue River, which is famous for its fishing, right there in Southern Oregon. Beautiful place, and we bring in about 10 warriors. It was our first one there. And Joanne, who's Native American, she's our director of counseling, like I said. She's dealing with these young guns, and they're fresh out. I think the one I'm talking about here goes by his label name, Soldier Hard, Jeff Barrelero. He was a tanker, and he, through one of the sessions, said, you know what, Joanne, I enjoyed killing. But guess what? Joanne wasn't taken aback for a second. She goes, well, God makes warriors. You're a warrior. Mm-hmm. So it kind of struck him like, wow, I really didn't expect that. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a part to play. I don't know if it's more beneficial to have a deep-seated faith before you go in the military, because they may challenge that. You may run up against, especially women, guys, because they have a tough road to hoe. And we were talking about boys' club earlier. Come on, it can be rough. I wouldn't want to be a woman. Now it's gotten better, just like in the VA, they've started to address women's issues. But if you have a strong faith prior to going in the military, it's probably going to be challenged just because of the yuck that you're going to encounter, whether it's a young man or a young female. If you don't have any faith, I don't know that the military is a place where you're going to grow it.
When you say it's going to be challenged, is it challenged by other people or just by the circumstances and the death and all the things that you see?
I think you just said it. All those, check all those boxes.
Yeah.
But certainly, people have a big part to play in the development of any kind of military member. You can have good people, just like you can have good bosses out here, people that want to encourage you to take their job. That's probably on the lower end of the scale than the ones that are power hungry and want to get their rank next and, see you as in their way. But when it comes to faith, I think on base right now, there's a South Chapel and there's a Main Chapel. There's, I think, 5 different denominations represented. We're talking about Patrick Space Force Base, almost said Air Force Base. And it's there. It's available. But I don't see them reaching out. I don't see them making a real strong, concerted effort in any branch of the military to say, hey, let's just come in and have a meal with us and let us share some stuff with you. You go to any of the academies, the Air Force Academy, the West Point, Annapolis. Oh yeah, you're going to church. You're going to have that opportunity to go to chapel because it's just part of bringing up, proper officer. But in the active duty ranks, in the enlisted ranks, probably not so much. So yeah, I think there's a challenge. That's something that they could address. That's why I want to see Impact Warriors grow. We don't need to get huge. I just want people to get the word out. There's a place where you can go learn about what God can do in your life and share some stories and be relatable to other vets.
Tell us how God's worked in your life to overcome. I know the biggest thing, and if you want to share it, that's great. But tell us how you've been able to overcome, and you overcome after your active duty time. But I would love to hear the depth of this, because these two guys.
This is either coming from a breakfast we had, or maybe I shared some at last Impact Warriors.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has their challenges, right? But God's always had a place in my heart. I've always known Jesus. I wasn't baptized until 1991. And I remember the little church. I can't remember the name of it, but I know exactly where it's at. It may not even be a church anymore. But it was important for me to get baptized because I knew I needed to do that. Up till that point is that story I've told you a little bit about. It was just a horrific scene with an ex-wife. And what happened was, had a beautiful boy, and she began poisoning him. Just horrible against me, because I was done with her, and as she used him as a tool. And so that's as close as I can get to knowing that I was a deep believer in Christ, and knowing after that I was less so, because I was so angry. I remember coming out of, it was in Seattle, I was coming out of a particular court hearing. I'm not going to go into the details. Just imagine the worst. And I'm on my motorcycle. It's raining out, and I'm driving down I-5. And I couldn't even tell that it was raining because I was crying so much. I was just bawling, and I had to pull over. And okay, the next time God appeared in my life, same motorcycle, I was being a dork and popped a wheelie in front of some girls driving in a car, and boo, guy flipped his lights on. And I told him what was going on with me, and he let me off. And I said, oh, thank you, God. So then I knew God was still there. But that's the long and short of it, okay? God's always been with me. I got baptized, I guess, kind of late. And then, I've got 32 now years with this wonderful woman that I'm married to, Kim. She's the biggest blessing God's ever brought into my life,
Amen, buddy.
By far.
Yes, she.
And when he says she runs a show, he's not joking.
Yes, she does.
She's she's the brains behind it and the driving force. But it just shows the magnificence of God. And just like every morning I wake up, I just have that moment, and I just let him know. And I again, it's probably more selfish. It's just me needing to express to him, how awesome he is. So God's played a huge part in my life ever since. We've had some real good connections with pastors. I've had some really awesome pastors. John Cussin, Applegate Christian Fellowship, one of Chuck Smith's disciples. Amazing teaching. Even here on the Space Coast with the East Coast Christian Center with Dan Stahlbaum before he retired. You talked about it. It's that relatability. When a pastor can come out there and their own foibles and their own trials, and it's just, man, I need that. I need to know more about you. I need to know more about you and you, because it helps me.
I think that's one of the big things with Impact is, like, number one is, we're talking about our veterans program, right? Like, we identify very quickly who we can relate to, and if we can't do it, we find a guy that can.
Exactly.
And we got one in there that'll do it, right? But then we also have people that have such different stories across the board that we can find somebody that not only has probably been in your situation, but can relate to the situation you're exactly in today, so that there's no condemnation. You can truly talk on a level, right? It's like if you're dealing with PTSD, well, that's a big spectrum, man. Like, you could be the guy that was in the Hummer that got blown up, or you could be the guy that was putting them back together. And those are two different perspectives, and they're very different. Or the guy that was taking the lives of other humans. Or the one that was, exactly. And that's a hard thing you have to compartmentalize to do that. And then when you come back to the real world, the real world says that's not a good thing. That's not acceptable. Right. Same thing can happen in the military. It can happen in any career field. Things can happen, external influences. That's why to have the center being God is super important. I don't proselytize. AVET Project we don't talk about Jesus. We have prayer. We open everything, and you were invited, but you didn't make it because you were busy, which, does everybody know how busy this is?
I think I was out of town that night, day. But I asked for the rain check, bro.
You got it.
I got the rain check.
You got it. So we introduce God, and we're there, and we're available, and we have people that can talk much more learnedly, if that's a word, than I can about the Bible. I love the Bible, and I read it, and I have devotions around the house that I go through every day. But at the PR&R retreat, just like we don't talk politics, we don't let them drink booze. Okay, you got 3 days. You can go without it, right? We're here to focus on a mission and get things done.
On you, yeah.
Yeah. So no politics, no booze, no proselytizing. But it's there. If anybody, and you'd be amazed at how often they'll find their little subgroup, and start talking.
Find a way to plant seeds.
It's a good idea, right? Because you need to let's face it, like religious organizations, we get a bad name, right? And when you start making that the center of everything, like you would turn guys and women off. They wouldn't come because they're like, well, I don't want to go get preached at. I want to go talk about my issue. But then having an impact group that's a partner alongside, it's like, hey, you want to know more? Right. Like here's the guy. Like call this one. Yeah.
Give us the AVET, what you can do for someone that needs some help, and
elevator speech.
The elevator speech with how to get a hold of you.
It's really easy, everybody. avet-project.org. avet-project.org. You go to that website, and again, this is constructed by my wife. She's a magician. Everything that we do, you can see. All right, you can click on events. It's going to show you some historical photographs. You can go, oh, yeah, I can see that. Oh, there's a PR&R retreat. Oh, there's the first female Veterans Day celebration. Now, that's not Veterans Day. This is to celebrate female veterans. It was about 3 years ago that Kim put together at the Nami Nami room at Brevard Zoo. We were hoping on hopefully 50 people, had about 75 people show up. Then it grew to 100, then 125. Now we have to move it. So this coming Flag Day, I think it's June 12th, we're going to celebrate the female veterans here in Brevard at the Holiday Inn Convention Center off of 520. If you want to get involved, see a little bit about what we do, and see the impact of bringing women together. Just the women. Men are welcome. Please buy tickets, guys. And just see how it moves them and moves them together and more closely. It's pretty. It's wild. That's just one opportunity. avet-project.org. Also, American Warrior Radio Show. Right. We've been doing it. AVET Project was founded in 2009. So what's that? 16 years. The following year, we started on terrestrial radio with American Warrior Radio, and we've been doing it. Took some hiatus on both fronts for a number of years for a number of different reasons, but we're out there. The information is at avet-project.org. Even if it's something as simple as wanting some background on a do-it-yourself claim, boom, very well laid out. And things like this, partnering with other like-minded groups. Obviously, I'm all about faith-based partnerships. We have to be careful because we don't want to alienate. We want to invite them in, and if it kind of organically grows into something.
That's the way it works.
Yeah, that's fine. But we're not going to be out there saying, well, support Tim Thomas because he's a vet and he's running for, Florida State Senate. We can't do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to say, come to Jesus. Come here and we'll help you out with your faith walk. No, we want to open the door, bring them in. And the easiest way for anybody to find out more about that, avet-project.org, or go to American Warrior Radio Show on YouTube. Get involved. Help us help them. Whether it's volunteering for one of the events, we need people for the Female Veterans Day celebration. You always find a place to plug somebody in. Sure. And then, of course, money is always important because we can't do these things alone. And that's why it's really special to partnership with you, Trey, and Impact Warriors to get the word out, because this dude, does everybody see it? Matthew West, amazing. And it's going to be an awesome night. I've been to the others. You've invited me. Thank you for that. And it's just what you're putting together here, the Grace Experience. Really looking forward to it, and have AVET Project alongside or as part of that is really special.
Great segue, bro.
I do what I do.
May 31st, we're going to be teaming up with AVET Project and Amigos en Cristo. That's our first foreign mission organization that we're working with, raising awareness and funds. And this guy, Matthew West, 5-time Grammy-nominated Christian artist, singer-songwriter, is going to join. And I might have a special speaker guest that might be joining us. So I'm working on that now. You can get your tickets at kingcenter.com. Go to our website. The link's there too at impactministries.org. And we want to hear from you. Click on the Brotherhood Support Network link.
Listen to 106.3 because they're giving away free
106.3, Hope 106.3, giving away tickets as well. our friend Eric's going to be joining us probably within the coming weeks to promote their station. Also, lastly, the Impact Warriors Project, we meet every third Tuesday of the month at the Freedom Boat Club, right out front of Grills Riverside. Our friend Joe and Chris from Grills have donated that space for us to get together. We would love for you to come, peel back the layers, get real about who we are as men, and understand who God says we are as his children. So, it's been a joy having you, Garen. Thank you so much.
Good meeting you too. This guy, no.
There we go.
He's all right.
So, but we will circle back up with some other amazing things to talk about in the coming weeks.
Yay.
Until then, I'm Trey.
I'm Brad.
I'm Jeremy.
This is
Garen Cohn with AVET Project.
And we are the
Cussin
Christians. You know, this might be the first episode without a cuss word in a long time.
Although
No editing there.
he did reference hell on earth, which spells ho.
demon, yeah.
Hell on Earth is
Spells ho. I mean, is that what that means? Is that what they call people hoes?
Oh, my.
Hell on earth.
there you go.